I use Crunchyroll a lot. Big reason. I like the service a bunch. Haven't been paying since 2020. I'm a slice of life comedy person. Think Kinmoza, Lucky Star, Nishiju, Is Theodore Rabbit, Nana Biori, Watamote, Monthly Girl Since Akiken. If it's a slice of life with comedy elements, it may pique my interest. So around the time I was starting out using Crunchyroll as a daily driver, I decided to look across the slice of life plus comedy category on Crunchyroll, adding stuff to my watch list. And then I came across a show called Ebiten, and my entire life changed. Before Ebiten, I used to be this. Now I'm this. It's probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's a good parody of Haruhi Suzumiya. Heck, I think it outshined it in numerous examples. The characters are written so well in the story. What do I even need to talk about when it comes to this story? It's pretty good. But I think the plot elements need to be toned down. But otherwise, Ebiten is the best show of all time. GJ Club, Mitsudome, Minamike, get out of here. Instead, we have a piece of Birduki. So Ebiten, you might have heard that name somewhere. I brought it up once in the video, and look at me now. You know those parody shows? Yeah, Ebiten tries to be one and is such a big fan of the word repetitive. This show came out as a 10-episode ONA series according to my anime list, which means over in Japan, they didn't have to watch this thing on TV. It was an online-only thing. So does that mean us people in America were lucky? Kinda. Well, Sentai Filmworks thought we needed this TV show in America instead of all the seasons of Minami K. Sentai Filmworks are the licensors, and AIC Classic were the animators. Now, AIC has been on my mind because I think AIC themselves are a company that splits up the work between different subsidiaries. It did this a lot back then with other studios that work on projects, notably AIC Spirits and Mocking Key. But this subsidiary only has a few projects, with Ebiten being the most prominent. As stated before, I am not a big fan of this show, but I'll give it a fair hearing, because I made it through almost the entirety of the thing, but then that stupid K-On! Reference in episode 7 happened, and I lost it right then and there. It takes up the majority of an episode, and I couldn't handle it. This show is also available through Hyundai, but it's clear that the company wants to show their worth by pulling out Disney and removing their shows from Crunchyroll that belong to it. Completely forgetting that may backfire on them, so I'll just watch the thing through Crunchyroll. Plus, I expect the service to stay free for a while. Wait a minute. So yeah, Ebiten. Let's get this over with. It's 2 episodes less than the Fruits of Evolution, but it's 10 times worse than the Fruits of Evolution. Okay, I'll start from the top and go our way down. We start off with narration, talking about the Big Bang Theory's intro, but in a less exciting way. Our narrator talks about stars and more stars, and this show's already looking great. I'm having a very hard time making this sound interesting. See, Ebiten relies on these parody openings instead of creating their own because apparently that's funny. Guys, let me explain. There's a difference between doing a funny reference and doing a reference. A funny reference can be seen in something like Watamote. This show has numerous references to other anime like K-On! However, they aren't the main focus. The show is still original and has an entertaining and original storyline, and it makes it fun. The references are exactly that, references, as part of Tomoko's weird fantasies. Watching them is fun, and some of them can even make you laugh. This is just some weird reference to Evangelion or Gundam. I'm gonna say Gundam, but I doubt it. Then we transition into the actual intro, and what the hell was the point of that scene? Seriously, why? It was just a silly reference to a show, and it wasn't even funny! And then we meet our main character, Kyoko. She's slacking off right now, and even in front of the teacher. She has more interest in the astronomy book than the actual class.
He also made the beautiful young high school girl, Cecilia, lipstick!
Get used to me doing this, because I'll be doing this more than once. Not off to a great start with a show like this.
そうですよね。私の授業なんて退屈で聞きたくないですよね。Yeah.
So the teacher whines about having an awful time with handling her relationship issues, assuming everybody in the class gives a crap about that. In fact, it actually impedes on the class because instead of teaching the class, we have to deal with the teacher whining about her relationship issues. Also, I hope this character isn't actually like the main character and maybe she's just a side one. Anyway, since the bell rings, she immediately changes her stride and tone and walks away and all happy and lucky and all of that, sending the class off. Where she got that bundle of energy? I don't know, but hey, I've gotten entire days with barely any sleep, so I guess you can get random bundles of energy here and there, even if the reason is as comprehensible as— No, seriously, does this character even need help? Kyoko ignores that little hiccup and just prepares for her club activities, where she takes part in the Struggling Astronomy Club, which is literally what it's called, except they added the struggling in post. This is actually the Astronomy Club. Wow, I I actually feel very bored typing this. Maybe I should do something to cheer myself up. Maybe that'll help me get some motivation back to continue watching this wasteland of a show. Alright, that kind of got me. I feel a bit more excited to see where this goes. By the way, don't ask where that moon piece she got came from. Assuming it's Canadian, honestly, you should as well. Hanamori is the pink-haired character. She goes with Kyoko to the astronomy club. She also is the most generic klutz imaginable. Oh, and she's a big fan of boys love. She's about as cliche as an anime character as you could get from me. And Kyoko criticizes her, and rightfully so, so she's already my least favorite character in the show, and that's surprisingly saying a lot, because it's Ebiten. The narration that shows up appears a bit, and I don't get it. Not to mention, it kind of opens up and disappears without really explaining what they mean by this statement. What I'm trying to explain here is that the narration isn't needed past the intro, and I'm kind of annoyed by the show for bringing it back even past it. So, we're later shown the rest of our main characters, most of them parody Haruhi Suzumiya characters, because the show is essentially a parody of it. This character is called Ryuki Hiromatsu, essentially the Yuki of Ebiten. She likes cats, but hasn't admitted it to anyone yet. She goes to the same club as the other two, with a cat that shows up here and there. There are a few others, including the Itsuki wannabe Hasumi Uba, who makes tea on a regular, and an upcoming character who joins the club. He's Kyon, and his name sounds very similar to a character from Haruhi Suzumiya. Before we even get graded into the club, because there's no such thing as interruptions in this thing, we are taken to the student council office about the possibility of the astronomy club being shut down, which actually never happens in the TV show. Not once, but we still have to hear about it. Yuki and Hasumi talk their heads off about something that never happens. I assume it's because Yuka is shy or a tsundere, but what does that have to do with her obsession with shutting this thing down? The club getting shut down is a recurring joke that's brought up several times in Ebiten, and almost every time it is, it's immediately countered. In that scene, she literally says, when she's asked the reason as to why the club is being shut down, because that's an excellent reason. If we even call it one. Eventually, we are finally given the reason as to why the club's being shut down, mentioning stuff like the club has too few members being the first, and the club isn't doing any real activities, which is funny to say considering there have been many clubs that have been made in TV shows, most notably GJ Club, that don't really do anything, but still exist due to the amount of members. What does the GJ Club do? Well, according to my anime list, the goings-on of the GJ Club are still a mystery, but the club exists, and that's more than enough proof as to why that statement doesn't work. Of course, they are two different shows, but I'm still bringing it up because they're both clubs doing things. Then list some. Give me some reasons as to why the club should be shut down. You give me two, and I can retort both of them with examples from other shows like Amina Yell and How Clumsy You Are, Miss Ueno. I assume this is about getting a room. They could be downgraded into an organization which still has a room. Plus, there are plenty of enough people to make that possible. 4 people. Hasumi talks about how it's unlikely you can shut the club down, like she has some sort of power, which, on a technical standard, is a definite no. Unless you count the emotional manipulation that her club is being special to her, which, on both sides of the spectrum, Yuka shouldn't be caring about. But she does, because people with consciences are the worst. She walks off like a typical villain over to the club with some harassment on Kyoko's part. Harassment which involves the unneeding fan service in a show that I'm only finding interesting because of the ability to criticize the fan service. Look, I'm not against fan service. Heck, I'm all for it. I'm saying this show needs a good reason to use it, and this show, so far, hasn't given me any justifiable reason as to why there's fan service in it. Not only that, but the fan service seems forced. Sure, Suzumiya did something similar in an episode, but at least with that TV show, it was relatively funny. Plus, with Suzumiya, it wasn't as forced in comparison to this show. Heck, we see Hanamori literally struggling and getting upset over this, but Kyoko just grabs her and knocks her down. Did that ever happen in Suzumiya? Fan service, when done right, can be entertaining, but this show isn't really making it fan service fun or even necessary. And anyway, past all this, we see a new character called Itsuki Noya, the Kyon of the group, who just arrived and wants to join the club, which I feel like he's making a bad mistake just asking that question, especially to a club like this. Kyoko stops Noya getting the paper and talks about how he won't get in that easily. Guys, if the club is getting shut down, is this the reason as to why you're going to be shutting him down? But I can't blame her. We don't have a reason as to why he has to join the club. Why does he want to join this club in particular? So they handle a little test to see if he's capable of doing things in the club. Oh, and apparently this Kyoko character is also the definition of a terrible friend.
この部にふさわしいかテストだ。それ金森のカバン。何？これだ。
She's still a terrible friend, and I'm gonna ask now, why is Hanamori even friends with her? All she's doing is basically treating her like crap, forcing her to do things, while also kicking her while she's down and taking her stuff. Kyoko's just awful. She literally just said she hated her because she took something that wasn't hers. Why? And Yuka's okay with this? Why isn't anybody stopping this? Also, where did she get that rope from? Wait, you're gonna do something to help, right? Are you? All these people are you're not doing, all these people are terrible! So the test is to see if you have imagination, because you need to have one in order to be in the club. What do you mean by this? Do you mean you have to be able to think? Because that's obviously not it. Do you have to be able to dream? Most people, I assume, most can dream. So that wouldn't be too much of a problem. Do you need to be able to be creative? Well, I guess creativity does run in the club a bunch, but much of the creativity that's taking place isn't good, I will admit. Again, I could be overthinking things, but I clearly have a couple of questions when it comes to this statement. Okay, skipping this bit. Well, I'm genuinely wondering why I'm rooting for this character now. She took someone's stuff without asking. She kicked someone when she was already down. She asked a friend to help screw with someone's stuff. She went as far as to cut up the manga that didn't belong to her. Oh, and she tried to tie up her friend and tried to get her to shut up. Am I the only one asking the question as to why I'm rooting for this horrible person? It doesn't matter if she has 3 copies of the same thing and you just damaged one of them. Why is Hanamori even friends like this? Bullcrap! You just did! And you literally just did something to make her sad! Stop lying! Wow, in addition to the things I've already mentioned about Kyoko, she also takes the blame that she caused herself, and shifts the blame to someone else, claiming the new kid lamented Hanamori! No, seriously, Kyoko is an awful person.
そういえば聞いたことが、天文学はもともと神の調和を解き明かす学問だったと。先輩はこの漫画のコマの調和から星々の調和を読み取れとおっしゃっているのですね。
Nope, I don't think that's it. Heck, she slept for a large majority of it. Eventually, she gives him a second test. As a side note, you may be wondering why the subtitles call Itsuki a her, but I keep calling Itsuki a him. That's largely because Itsuki is a him. He's just seen in the show as a cross-dresser, similar in vein to characters like Makoto and Mako from Minamike or Chihiro Fujisaki from Danganronpa. Neither of them know that she's a cross-dresser until after he's accepted, though. Apparently, this massive thing that they pulled off after the commercial break is a quest for our main character, who has to go on a journey or something. Is that all really necessary, just to have him sign a piece of paper? Really? Isn't this a bit much? It almost feels like the show changes genres for a bit. Time for some exposition. Beating each club member and protecting the 12 zodiac signs. He needs to wear some box on his back. It apparently weighs a ton, and is all of this really necessary just to join a club? May I remind you, is all of this really necessary? A random arrow gets thrown at Athena, and she claims that if Itsuki doesn't press on, she dies. Then tells him again in case you didn't hear it the first time. Yeah, do that as well. She talks all big, mispronounces Itsuki's name so badly I wonder if she even knows it. That's some stupid logic. Okay, let's break that statement down. Why does opening your eyes affect someone else's life, let alone killing them? If that's supposed to say, the second I open my eyes is the second I die, I totally understand. But it isn't saying that. In fact, it'd actually be even more stupid than the line we got. So, I don't know what it means. Also, do you have to flap your hands? Kyoko gets mad then attacks Hanamori because Will Smith and Chris Mock hitting each other at a live show wasn't enough. And then, skipping this scene as well. Hanamori, I wish you the best of luck. That wasn't even his doing, you know. That was all yours. Second fight, Yuka against Itsuki. Hopefully this show takes this one seriously. Never mind, don't underestimate this show and its bullcrap. You know, at least have the fight last a full minute. This only lasts 38 seconds, and even then that's a rough estimate at best. The Fruits of Revolution, as bad as it was, at least had the fight with Sadia last a minute at least. With this, it barely lasts any time. In fact, this entire sequence only lasts roughly 3 or 4 minutes, give or take. With Hayumi, for obvious lack of cost reasons, being recast even though she shows up at the beginning and was killed right then and there, making her appearance about as weird as Brittany Karbowski playing 2 different voices in the same show. Wouldn't it feel weird and out of place? Especially since her voice is the least distinctive when it comes to dub voice actors. Anyway, she gets a random bow and arrow out of nowhere and sends it flying at Itsuki. He dodges it, and this is his introduction to the club. I mean, thankfully that bow and arrow was targeted in such a convenient spot where the message could be written. Did Kyoko plan that? I say that because she was against him joining the club the entire time, so I doubt she would do it. Speaking of Kyoko, she's the last boss, and she created something called the... I don't even know what it is, nor what it is used for. And to be honest, I'd ask those questions, but I'm questioning why she's making this ridiculous stance and why is it so slow. He struggles against the water hitting him. It's definitely not a blast, that's for sure, but hold on. That thing our main character is carrying was actually an Ex Machina tool. Opening it reveals oversized knuckles that our main character can't use. Yay! Why were they designed to be this big? But wait, we don't have time to think about that. Itsuki's distracted, giving Kyoko an opportunity to attack. And she does exactly that, defeating our main character in the process. Guess he's not joining the club after all, except he joins the club after all by the end of this, making this entire episode pointless. And what's worse is that everything that I'm talking about in this episode is the first episode alone. Not a great way to introduce the audience to a show, if I'm honest. The way they decided, which infuriates me more that we still aren't done with this argument, is to RPS, or rock, paper, scissors. They all draw rocks, Itsuki draws paper, so they are finally able to say they have enough members, and the club can still go on. Oh, and that teacher that was shown at the start insultingly, she comes into the club room because she's apparently the advisor. She mentions how she's no longer the advisor anymore and handing her role over to the cat.
Hi, I'm Tom. These me mates.
Drink and drive.
Guys, this show will be 10 times better, which is saying a lot because I don't know how much this would save the show, if the teacher was no longer in the show. The jokes she makes are unfunny, and the joke about replacing the cat with her role is by far some of the most unfunny jokes in the entire show.
Fucking unbelievable.
So, that was the first episode. I'm sorry if I bored you in any way. It's hard to try to make things in this show sound interesting considering many of the things themselves in this show aren't all that interesting. But I'll tell you that in comparison, The Fruit of Evolution is just a far better show, to be honest. While I didn't like this show, at least it was somewhat entertaining, especially to talk about. With Ebiten, while it is a much more creative show, the jokes feel flat, references that serve no purpose aren't funny if you don't have any punchline or impact that make that joke hit. But my biggest problem with the show, if anything, is that it's utterly boring. I assume post-editing me is trying its absolute hardest to make this interesting. But the first episode is finally over, only 9 more episodes to go, plus 2 OVAs. I'm not doing the OVAs, I already had a hard time watching the first episode. Alright, so second, I kid you not, this is how the episode starts. Unnecessary fan service support Hanamori. Well, that's one way to wake up. You know, this entire show is basically this in one scene. One weird thing after another. Strangely enough, I could see myself enjoying something like this. I liked Pop Team Epic because of the weird random stuff that happened in it. However, Pop Team Epic took a bunch of random things and compiled it into 12-minute long episodes. Plus, Pop Team Epic knew it was just that. Ebiten tries to be something similar, but I don't know, I'm just not feeling the same energy from it. If this show knows it's grabbing generic shows, why implement those straws in your show? Well, there's another straw. I am already not excited for the rest of the episode. Hanamori finds a cat with a bandage on it, almost insinuating that the thing wants to take the bandage off. Hanamori plans this but stops, thinking about an episode with a similar scene to this one, because reality and reality are basically the same thing if you think about it. I mean, it's just 2 letters off. Whose fault is it for wasting their time on a fantasy? It's like the opening gets different every time I watch the show. It's like the title card gets different every time I watch the show.
どうして野谷さんはそんな格好をしているの？戸田山が無理やり合意の上だ。
For a person who gets physically harassed by Kyoko, you really shouldn't be talking that much. Hell, you're gonna get screwed over by Kyoko right now. It's like you can predict the nonsense that happens in this show. You and I both. But the fact that you're reasonably okay with it makes me assume you're aware of what she's doing and don't care, which shuts down this entire line. Either way, Hanamori's wearing a Santa costume because Kyoko's trying to get Santa to come to the club. Weird, random, and nonsensical. But I kind of like to see where this goes. So, let's listen to what she has to say. The reason why she's doing this in the first place is to get something out of it. You know, you could just go to the store or buy it or go to Amazon and get it. You don't have to do this, but whatever. I actually think shows like this are a little cool if they change up usual tactics and create something creative out of it. Like someone going to the store. Instead of going to the store to get it, you request evil points and get said item and it falls from the sky. Something like that. No, seriously, watch Combats Will Be Dispatched. It's really good. Kyoko quite literally pisses off every religious figure by saying a line that is quite literally not true depending on who you ask. And I want you to take a look inside of the head of Kyoko. Zoom in on it. Well, that explains a lot. No wonder why what she's doing is super random. Totally taking advantage of your friend right now. And unlike other times, Hanamori finally realizes that she may be helping this person may not be a good idea. Despite her protests, and Hanamori literally saying an altered version of no, our heroine drags our poor Hanamori out in the basket of what I call Mikado syndrome. This syndrome involves a character, just like Mikado, getting dragged into something she doesn't want. Back to the council room, more empty statements that aren't even fulfilled. The idea that the club will be shut down is nonsense, and the fact that Yuka's pushing this story further is a bit annoying. But to remind you, they had a lack of members, but now she doesn't care about that? Because apparently regardless of whether you fit the bill or not, the bill doesn't want you. Yuka talks about how they've gotten so many complaints from people talking about how they want the club shut down. Wow, some actual proof. I'm kind of impressed. I mean, this is surely not just her writing on a bunch of papers to make it look like these complaints are made by actual people. Why do I even try with this show? This show's just stupid predictable. And wow, this show has gone full sentimental a bit. Seems off-key, but I'll allow it as long as the show won't break the tension somehow by having Kyoko run in the doorway with Hanamori for the two to see. I freaking hate this. And wow, this scene is just like in Suzumiya, but come on, at least change it up. It's basically the bunny scene from Suzumiya, but less exciting and fun. Or, if we had to take the licensing company into account, just High Dive's version of Crunchyroll and Funimation's better version of the scene. It's like using the Funimation app on PS5 and using the same app on the PS4. They're both the same, the only difference is the controller. It's just that, but with a poor parody show. Anyway, Hanamori feels very uncomfortable, but Kyoko passes on, using emotional manipulation to her advantage, and it works for a bit until classmates from Hanamori's class show up, and she goes into hiding. Thinks for a bit, then runs away while she still can. In the meantime, Rieke and Itsuki are speaking about a few things, most notably why the club room is in the basement, where the sky can't be seen. The show does a gag of them being in a different room when it actually is a stage set. Again, riffing on another show that did something like this a lot, like Panty Pony Dash. I have my frustrations with that show, including Funimation's audacity to rate that show a TBPG for having scenes such as a character giving a middle finger, and much like Panty Pony Dash, there are background elements that show up. I like these in Panty Pony Dash, as it almost feels like the show is being recorded in real time. One of my favorite scenes in the anime was at the very end of Chiyo's School Road, where the studio created an animated outtake reel. They didn't need to make something like this, but I liked it. With this, much like the other jokes in Ebiten, it feels like it was in the show to be in the show. And out of all of this, Kyoko calls this a pretty good job. Yeah, it's totally one-sided, but still a pretty good job. Anyway, Hanamori, after doing something like this, enters what Kyoko calls imagination running mild mode. Yeah, apparently this happens more on a consistent basis to be given a name. She declares that she's not going to be in the club before, which, would actually be pretty beneficial for her, and runs out the door. A few days passes, and she starts changing outfits. First day was a bunny costume, and she bumps into chairs without any care in the world, nor any care to pick them up. Also, the chair and desk physics in this scene are weird. I doubt the desk and chairs would fall over, rather, they'd be pushed. Anyway, Kyoko tries a different plan by dressing up Itsuki as Santa, but the club members aren't even impressed by this. Not like it was impressive when Kanamori did it. Either way, we finally understand what is wrong with Hanamori, and that she's too deep in her fantasies. Kyoko claims that she'll handle problems even though she was the one that got Hanamori into the problems in the first place. Hanamori's on the rooftop, speaking with Omori. The teacher won't get out of the show, make some funny jokes, including this one, reminding Hanamori the cat is actually the teacher, and the teacher is just Omori. She has relationship and issues, any reason as to why Omori is still here.
Drink, drive, drink, think, drink, trip, drink, you drive, you drink, don't drink and drive.
The cat sends Hanamori back into the club room, which is in jeopardy. Yeah, as if the club, called the Agonizing Astronomy Club, couldn't have possibly been in any form of jeopardy. This jeopardy includes one Kyoko Todayama, who apparently is evil now and talking like an evil person. They even changed up the club room to make it look like an evil person's lair. That's some dedication, but how much would they have to clean up after all this is finished? Makes sense, considering all of this was Kyoko's doing. So, this turns out to be a magical girl like Madoka or Pretty Cure. In this case, the show's parroting neither and instead going for a Sailor Moon vibe. Does it work? Well, it depends on if you like pixels for a transformation, acapella for a transformation scene, and absolute lies. We can't even see the transformation because it's almost entirely pixelated. Oh, come on, you... She's not back yet. She never said she'd return. You just got her here, and even then, you probably did what you usually do and deadlock on Hanamori into being forced to join the club again. In fact, she never left! Technically, she was still here, even in the club, when she claimed she left. Did anyone laugh at that joke? You in the back, the one with the hand raised. I want you to come down here and publicly tell everybody why you found this joke funny.
But for some weird reason, I really like it.
I see. And you're telling me you found this funny?
Yeah.
And how long did it take for you to laugh at it?
Like right away.
Wow, she's actually being serious. Guys, I think we found a problem with the show. Get her out of my sight. Anyway, this incredibly hard to sit through scene goes on for an amount of time that rivals this Think Road Safety advertisement. And this is even longer than this freaking sentence. No, seriously, this goes on for a while. My patience is really running thin. I think Hold On Me is actually shorter than this entire scene. This entire scene is in real time. I am not editing this. Yes! So after all that, I'm guessing all three of Kanamori's comrades basically got knocked out. One of them is reading a script dictating the final vows what once was a prosperous person. A highlight reel ensues because most sad moments in TV showcases a highlight reel of the character's best moments. If the show wanted to keep up with its own jokes, it referenced some scenes from episode 1 and nowhere else because these weren't shown in the show, like at all. Oh wait, it actually does showcase scenes from the first episode. Turns out this show can listen to me after all. There's only one scene, and this has been going on for only 2 episodes at this moment. Do we really feel that much sympathy for this character? Kyoko also mentions how she was able to get Hanamori in here in the first place. It was basically by harassing and screwing with people lower than her. Yeah, punching down. Quite a cowardly tactic. Next episode starts off with a 420p video quality of a person playing ball, but it's hard to see what is actually happening to the point where I couldn't decide even if I wanted to include this in the video. She stalks the club for a bit, and walks in blindingly, being forcibly taken in with Kyoko, knowing this person in particular, pretending like she doesn't know her and welcoming her anyway. Well, at least I know that massive thud would have been heard. Either way, the vagueness of this character is strong. I think her name is Izumiko, but she claims she's here for, zoom in on that, a certain someone. Thanks for telling me nothing. Yeah, I enter into my room looking for a certain something. I'll never tell you what that something is, but I know what it is, and you don't, and that's the only thing that matters. Someone finally said something about how indirectly bad some of the jokes in this show are. I was waiting for someone to call this show out. Also, no, it isn't agonizing anymore, so why keep the agonizing in the name? Kyoko treats Izumiko like a bad guy, and knocks the woman out. No, like, literally knocks out with smoke, which would have killed also Kyoko. Just saying. I mean, just 2 to 3 breaths of toxic smoke and you're unconscious. It's like the show is trying everything in its power to double standard. Izumiko gets up, is given tea, and Kyoko complains about getting any form of enjoyment. Again, she treats her like the enemy. No problem with that. But when Hot Ayumi is letting Itsuki join the club, she gave Kyoko the stink eye. So what changed here? Kyoko talks about her being an alien even though she has no evidence to back up her incredibly implausible statement. She tries to hit her but gets stopped by Izumiko, who actually, this scene I will admit could genuinely be funny. I think this could actually have its moment. Wait a minute. Actually, I realized I was watching the scene from Yuri done in an incredibly unfunny way here. No wonder why the characters look so different. Yeah, don't worry, the only reason why I'm able to handle this crap is because she does it all the time and I critique her all the time. Back onto the subject, Izumiko claims she's looking for someone. Yeah, because I still haven't found that something I wanted yet. I won't be helpful nor explain what it is, I'll just say something and expect you to understand what I'm saying. You know, this show takes the whole cat is teacher thing a little too seriously, even for it. To the extent in which Yuka, with a straight face, had to say this while somehow trying to explain this to a shadower. That's absolutely unironically. We finally. Actually, never mind. I was about to say we finally got more information about this person by gender, but nope. All we got is a they. Dang. Actually, no, we do get something. It's apparently a thing, not a one. We then make it to a closet of sorts. This closet, when open, contains a bunch of doujinshi, many of which are explicit. Apparently, this belonged to Hanamori, and now I'm going to ask why keep your stash here, in a place where people can easily find it. Why not leave it at home? She takes it, telling Izumiko not to look or touch. Kind of difficult not to touch since she's in the pile, and it's hard not to look because she's in the pile, and does this kind of happy dance. This interesting moment is actually probably one of my favorite scenes in the show. Her dance, there's nothing really wrong with it, but to be honest, and to drop the act for a second, I actually think it's pretty cute. It's just how simplistic it is. Mute the audio and you could actually make this an enjoyable GIF. If this show had more of these moments, I'd probably ignore many of the minor problems as well. After this cute little dance, the show doesn't really go up. Apparently, these space crackers are referred to as konpito, with Izumiko and Kyoko having a rocky relationship with these cracker-like snacks. Then calls Kyoko sister because these two are actually sisters. You know, the audience is too surprised by the thought of Kyoko having a sister. Let's cut to Omori, who is referred to as a person despite having the sensei in her name. I've been waiting for the day where I can finally use this sign. This show gives a sense of fan service, and back to the show. I felt like that scene wasn't needed. Who would have guessed? It feels like an excuse to adjust the runtime and increase it. Also, the show now fails to tell me what I should be referring to Omori now. She claims she's a teacher with a sensei in her name, but they also add in parentheses, the person. I know it's a joke, however the joke itself is not only not funny, but doesn't make sense to me. The way they could have done this scene better is being self-aware that the show is pausing itself during a cliffhanger moment.
Hey folks, viewer mail time again. Oh, here's one from Sally, age 14. Dear
Omori,
aren't you interrupting the story at the most suspenseful part? Well, the answer is yes, Sally. Yes, I am.
Speaking of that line, refer to Omori by her name, no added honorifics like sensei or the person in the sentence. Either way, we finally get a character introduction. This is Izumiko Toriyama, the sister of Kyoko Toriyama, who for some reason either completely forgot that she had a sister or intentionally treated her sister like an alien knowing that she was a sister. Regardless of what side the show is on, Kyoko would be horrible on both sides of the spectrum. Speaking of spectrum, while Kyoko treats her sister okay, Izumiko hates her because of a promise that she made that she never lived up to. Almost as if the term unkeepable promises could be mistaken for keepable promises. Meh, just remove the un from the word, you can handle the rest. As time goes by, Kyoko admits that she's inhuman and she's not a normal person. She got past the first hurdle of admitting that you're a bad person, by admitting that there's a problem and acknowledging that your behavior is negatively affecting people in your life. She also claims that she's a fan of the Fate series now, because I guess that had something to do with this scene. Kyoko tests Izumiko, and keep note of the phrase make fun of, because she doesn't use it in the correct way. Why yes, they totally do much in this club. Stuff like abusing each other, harassing people, making a ton of effort and putting it into a one-time activity, breaking in person, evading unjustifiable shutdowns, making random tests that prove nothing and making them incredibly difficult so no one can win, and very rarely stargazing. Yeah, just the usual club activities. So we're in a quiz game now, I guess. Izumiko gets the wrong answer. Beyond harassment, I don't think I need to say much when it comes to this scene, besides that this show really needs to stop coming up with reasons to give unneeded fan service upon Amori. Also, you know this feels right. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyoko actually said that to a supposed friend of hers. The president, for some reason, installed an alarm system, which went off when she was about to enter. Why does it only apply to her, considering it was never mentioned in previous episodes, and even Hanamori doesn't even know what that sound was supposed to mean? Who knows, who cares, and don't read too deep into this show. These are the lessons that Ebiten lives by, apparently just accepting the crap that's happening and laughing at it, regardless of how funny the joke is. This is the stuff I don't like about this show. Hey, by the way, is that supposed to be the president? Phew. We were given a shot of her arm that says president. I almost thought it was someone else. Smells. There was absolutely no mention on that from anywhere. So, who ratted these guys out? Heck, Itsuki, who eventually got here, was the only person in the club that wasn't in the room when this was happening. And he has no recollection of anything that's going on. Heck, he probably doesn't even know what's happening right now. So, once again, who ratted you out? Yeah, pay no mind to the Hanamori fan service, which is something I feel like is more important than the person that's willingly walking into the room. Just keep ignoring what's happening to the right of you, which you can easily see, you moron! Heck, if Kyoko kept her mouth shut, she probably wouldn't have looked in that direction. But no, just keep focus on this student and not this student. Apparently these guys involved an escape hatch inside the club room, and they all just leave through it except for Itsuki. He's apparently grounded. I don't even know what hit him. Anyway, more annoying banter and an unrelated and incredibly unfunny fight scene over the course of several carnival rides, all of which are being considered a fight in this show's eyes. Did I mention we are only 3 minutes into a 10-episode-long anime and it's already this ridiculous? Next episode, despite being warned by Hanamori to not go back to the club, she returns to the school and begins talking to Yuka, and trying to encourage Yuka to find a way to get her in. That would actually be a really good sparring point, if it was. But no, instead the show goes full sci-fi on us, bringing a random person who barely even gets a character introduction, and he just leaves after he introduces himself. I've never been more confused at a character introduction before now. Anyway, Yuka is trying to communicate with a cat, falls in love with it, and let's skip this while we... It's good to know that you're such a good friend who's trustworthy. Thank you. Here are a few steps at being Kyoko. 1. Grab any object that can be used against someone. 2. Hunt down the person you're after. 3. Be a hack and a half. 4. Watch as your upset victim literally cries in front of you and you do nothing but laugh at them. 5. Give them what they want, but do it in a forceful way. You don't want to show too much compassion. And 6. Watch as they struggle. It's some good life tips. If you're in a jam, just use these rules and you'll lose your friends in no time flat. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, that encounter. Yuka finds Izumiko, who casually says then walks in, but is stopped because she needs proof that she's in. Again, they gave this job to a cat, so it's pretty easy for the cat to stamp its paw, considering... No, seriously, I will never stop mentioning that. Omori literally gave a human job to a feline. I have no idea what she was thinking, and if it was a joke, it's not funny. You mean to tell me that this person lied and thought it was funny? Her lies are just about as funny as this show. If that's true, then... If you couldn't hear that, that's the sound of me banging my desk because of how ticked off I am at that comment. Why am I ticked off at it? I don't know, a certain something is pissing me off. Yeah, like that, in any way whatsoever, is in fact true, and even if it is, I guarantee you it's a stretch, somehow. She has the ability to research astronomy? Prove it. Don't make baseless arguments that aren't true. Who demeaned your name? Do you have any evidence to back up such an unforgivable false statement? Oh, okay, I see, so she's a menace to society. Anyway, that's basically the scene. We get some backstory, some of it's useful, some of it isn't. These were the points that stood out to me. 1. Kyoko's a menace to society. 2. She actually does work, which there's no basis for that, it just is. Apparently, she also demeaned the Toyama name by doing stupid things. And 4. Oh, and Izumiku has no idea what she's after, but she's still after it. It's like chasing something you don't even know of. But hey, we don't have time for that because we're introducing one of the worst scenes in the show. And that says a hell of a lot because there are several. Essentially, someone got attacked and passed out. We have no context as to who did it. All we know is that it happened. In broad daylight. In a school. Where people could probably see stuff like this happening. Yeah, a good place to knock someone out.
事件のことは生徒会以外では一切伏せておきなさい。他の生徒たちをいた。
On one hand, I agree with the sentiment, but on the other, that's basically saying, we're not going to kill anyone because we have a reputation to uphold. If you told people about the incident and told them what to do if they encounter something like this, wouldn't that make the school better? Considering transparency is one of the main things to compliment companies and people for. Without that, I might as well say, I like working on this video because it'll get me more views, instead of saying I like doing this because they're fun and I enjoy working on them, even if it takes me a while. So anyway, that's the reason why I'm ranking this show lower than many. It's one of the worst scenes in the entirety of it. Because all you're doing is hiding truths that will eventually be revealed later on. I call a lot of these hidden truths because that's exactly what they are. Oh, and yeah, the president, or should I say the necrophobic, has a fear of cats. Yes, I know there's ariophobia out there called alluriophobia, but necrophobic is actually pronounceable. Never told anyone about the condition towards cats that she has. We don't even get a backstory as to why she fears them, at least not yet anyways, and you know what, I'm gonna remember that line because every instance I've said something like that, this show always just managed to screw with me in some way. Okay, so only a select few people actually know about her condition. It still doesn't help when it comes to explaining how she got it, but okay. Either way, is this about shutting the club down again? No? Well, actually, this is actually something helpful. Nice. But anyway, whatever happens to your plans about not telling anyone to avoid a panic? I guess those hidden truths are already coming out as quickly as they were announced. And this is the same episode in which we found out about them. This show has no pacing at all, does it? She's literally trying to find an excuse to shut down the club at this point, right? Any excuse? Yeah? Yeah? Skip.
ということで、事件の真相を突き止めなければ天文部は廃部ですか?
I still doubt it'll work, and that's all I'll be saying about our plans. Also, is anyone actually upset that maybe the club could be shut down? I sure as hell ain't. This club room has been basically used for nothing but stupid routines that get worse as the show continues, with only one joke being somewhat cute, not even funny, just cute. Please don't feel bad for the club getting shut down. I freaking hate him. Also, yeah, that line about not telling anyone to avoid a panic is crumbling as more people find out. At this point, it's not even a hidden truth. It's just truth. Hanamori retorted something. At least this show knows Kyoko's dumb. I'm kinda glad someone's retorting Kyoko in some way. Not in a Setakayaki and Domo way, but I'll take it. Yeah, Itsuki's just gonna stand there, wearing something that's definitely not suspicious, and just wait until you're done interviewing whoever you're interviewing. You do that. I'll be watching RPG Real Estate in the meantime. Wait, I have to be involved too?! That smile doesn't seem sincere at all. Oh, for the love of... I'm getting sick of this show, like, actually sick of it now! Is this really happening?! Do you find any of this funny?! Sorry, I'm really at my wit's end with trying to not swear. I initially did it because I feel like if I swear I'd be stooping to a level worse than the show, but I don't even know if I care anymore. So yeah, Army Cats. It's about as infuriating and nonsensical as it sounds. Just move along, TV show. You can't work with such a ridiculous plot! Just move along, TV show. You can't work with such a ridiculous plot! Wow, now Kyoko ain't even trying. She's just gonna grab some random cat off the street and frame them. The fix? Proven innocent? I'm sorry, I thought you shows absolutely abused cliches like those. But I guess Ebiten's ready to service another pie of cliche that ain't even original nor entertaining. At least with the fix, I watched that once and Disney realized how bad the show was and removed it from the face of the earth. Can we please stop? Anyway, blah, blah! Already signature ex machina.
なんであんなのが有効なの？
Hanamori's asking the same question that I want to for a while. It's a cat. You can literally take any random cat off the street and stamp its paw and it would look legit. How is everyone standing still while the ground is quite literally shaking?
大森先生がお怒りになっている。
Apparently, you can understand cats. Not only do you understand how they speak, but understand their emotions. How convenient! Anyway, that cat doesn't want the club to be shut down, which also means this show doesn't want to freaking end. I freaking hate that cat.
先生のお友達。
Again, you can understand cats, so I'm guessing all these cats are teachers, or are all the cats just friends? I seriously have no idea what's going on. Cool, so I assume they're just gonna initiate some attack of some sort. But then again, these are cats. They have a mind of their own in some cases. Yuka can't understand them, so how does she know they're mad? Wow, this is definitely not in any way whatsoever animal abuse. Animated animals were definitely harmed in the making of this video. I have nothing to say, just next. This episode's already starting to severely piss me off.
世界は猫の炎に包まれた。校舎は崩れ、部屋は埋もれ、すべての学園生徒が絶滅したか。
It's called Ebiten, you swine! Ebiten, not the rise of shield hero! Know your place!
Kyoko is being a bad influence to yet another person. Who would have guessed at this point? All Izumiko wanted was to just search for a man that goes to this school. It's less vague than what she said before about being a certain someone, but it's not better than it, most definitely. Also, I know exactly what you're referring to, but she already saw Itsuki before, so why is she acting like she's never seen him before, let alone not knowing what he looks like? Izumiku walks in front of Itsuki and starts beating the crap out of him. Yeah, because I guess everyone in the Toyamada household is an absolute fool when it comes to introductions. Apparently, Itsuki knew exactly who she was and called her by a name that doesn't even make sense. It's not in any way whatsoever connected to Izumiko Toriyama. So I wonder where she got the name from and why Itsuki's even calling it by her. Elizabeth Margaret. Actually sounds familiar. Let me look it up. Oh, so we're bringing England into this? Great! England, I am so sorry that Ebiten brung your country into this show. I hope you will see it in your big flag to forgive them.
この戸田山泉子、一生の深く。
Hey, we finally did it! Someone finally is admitting to being a terrible person in this TV show. We're halfway through this show, and if it's taken us this long for someone to admit that they're a terrible person, I'm probably gonna be surprised how long it'll take for someone to actually make a genuinely funny joke. And she just keeps slapping him. This woman's actually in the same field as Kyoko, and almost thought she was better than her. But I guess I was wrong. I already know his experience when he joined the agonizing astronomy club. Problem, this is not how it played out at all. It was seen in the first episode, but basically he just walked in. So, yeah, they hid something from the audience until halfway through. It's amazing. This TV show actually had someone feel genuine sympathy for someone, all because they couldn't get into the club because of their gender. Does this show not have any respect for its characters, or am I asking too much from a show that already is a mess when it comes to sensibility? Your answer is just about as good as mine when it comes down to what an Elizabeth is supposed to be. Doesn't fit her character at all, though, to be honest, her current name doesn't fit her either. It later turns out that Izumiko is into sadism, because, yeah, that totally fits her character. She also later reveals that she, herself, is to be Itsuki's maid, and that brings the term Elizabeth Margaret into the picture somehow. Which leaves a whole bunch of questions, but I'll start by saying this was sudden. Incredibly sudden. To the point where it even surprised me, which I find kind of weird. I've been watching this show for several days, and I haven't gotten to the end of it even, and I'm amazed. I am actually surprised by something that this show did, considering it's a big fan of being ridiculous. We finally get some explanation as to what any of that even means. He's basically the he's rich trope, but instead of being bad, he's actually pretty kind, which leaves people to take advantage of him. I mean, it's happening right now. He's a part of the Noya family group or something, and there have been rumors of something like this spreading around the school.
そんな人がうちの部に。こんな変態ならわざわざ天文部に入ったのもうなずける。僕は変態じゃない。
Almost everyone in this club is one to talk. Yuka, you shouldn't be speaking when you have an uncontrollable desire for cats. Yes, you are a weirdo, much like everybody else in this club. I actually don't know if there's a single normal person in this club.
心を乱してはいけません。私は五木様の心の中だけでは。
I hate you.
やっぱりエリザベスじゃないじゃん。
This should have been obvious from the start. Didn't she say earlier that her name was Izumiku Toriyama? This show really changed its art style for a one-time joke that even I'm finding unneeded since it was last used in Space Patrol Lulugo.
そんなわけない。信じるわけ。そうなんだ。信じ
Yes, more of this, please. More retorts from Hanamori, please.
つまり戸田山妹も姉に負けず劣らずの変態だってことか。
The two of them respond in the exact same way. One of them is yelling at the end of their line, so it's kind of like Crazy As You Were. Sullivan King is screaming the line while Grabbit sings it. Oh look, they actually listened to some of my criticism and changed up the line to say Odomori Shuko as opposed to saying Omorori Sensei, the person. Wow, this show actually listened to criticism. Show, are you okay? It feels like you're gaining a sense of awareness, like self-awareness. Like, you know that you're bad, or you know that some of the things that you do are bad and you're trying to fix them. I think we might have to talk. I'm willing to listen as long as it's not a bunch of unfunny jokes.
あの天然顧問の飛行をついて。
Ow, my f***ing leg! Ow!
So, they made a tea set for just this one person. Also, they agreed to this. Feels like a waste of time to use it on one gag. And yeah, they probably belong to the Noya Financial Group. Actually, no. They belong to Izumiko. No wonder why it feels like everything got cheaper. Apparently, she adds salt, which is something Itsuki doesn't like. And that's a mountain's worth of salt on an already salty tea set. Kyoko, I had to replay this scene just to make sure I was watching it correctly. She actually cared about someone. Guys, I think this show is starting to become self-aware. That's terrible. I think I'm gonna have to stop after this episode. We'll continue the rest in due time, but I think the show is gaining self-awareness that's too much even for me.
泉子、そいつを構うのもいい加減にしろ。
They actually had Kyoko say a line that was not harassing or attacking someone or their identity. That's absolutely impressive, for this show at least. Doesn't make me laugh, but it's impressive that this character is actually being developed as the story progresses. Also, I know I'm gonna be a grammar nut for saying something like this, but Izumiku, stop bothering with him. Remove the with and you have a proper sentence. Izumiku, stop bothering him. Also, dang, that whole character caring about kind of thing slows down to a crawl when she criticizes Itsuki, calling him a wimp. I don't take back my shock, but still. Oh, and something even more impressive, Kyoko actually had a feeling of emotion called concern. You can tell by looking at her face. Those slanted eyebrows give off the concerned vibe. Like, I thought the word sadness didn't exist in this woman's dictionary. I thought the word, like, the condition or quality of being sad wasn't in this person's dictionary at all. But look at those bloody eyebrows. Those are the sense of a woman who is absolutely concerned, absolutely scared. I didn't even know Kyoko could feel an emotion like that. An emotion of sadness. I thought she burned up that word in a dictionary. But look at those freaking eyebrows. Let's see what she's so concerned about. Also, this man can't breathe.
私だけのおもちゃなのですから。
Calling a human a toy immediately makes me lose respect for you. I'm guessing the rest of you aren't as surprised as me, though. Just confused. Also, you can't say someone belongs to something. He's just in it. And yeah, that statement ain't true either. Anyway, Kyoko grabs the kid, and I never expected to say this before, but a woman basically harasses a man in an anime. Either way, these two quite literally fight over one man for the duration of an episode. And now, time for the play-by-play. Izumiko gets knocked down. Sounds like she got defeated. Kyoko starts mouthing things to Izumiko. Izumiko refuses to give up and gets back up. And starts to, these two women are terrible. Kyoko starts at Izumiko. Izumiko starts slapping the mess out of Itsuki.
What the hell?
Ask a perfectly explainable question that's never answered. I'm in the same boat as well. To be honest, I thought I was watching a really good show. But I found out I was watching a really bad show. So let's keep watching. It's bad. Also, this scene of stupidity goes on for quite some time. Again, quite literally, it's two women fighting over a human. Yuka, say something.
Huh?
I totally agree, kid. Anyway, this scene gets worse.
そこはがないから恥ずかしくないもんだよ。ここです。
TV show makes stupid reference to strike witches. Also, nice job stupidifying Yoshika. I'm sure she won't know. Also, Yuka, as helpful as she is, doesn't help someone who needs it. I've never felt bad for a character in an anime as hard as Hanamori right here. Okay, maybe I did for Tomatsu, but still. Also, maybe give her better advice and just... Also, this fight leads to nothing. Halfway through the show, it's honestly tiring. I might actually be more tired of this show than when I was reviewing The Fruit of Evolution. The sheer stupidity that grazed my screen over the past few weeks is amazing. However, I honestly don't think this first half was forgettably decent. I think it was bad, but in a decent way. It's nowhere near as bad as the second leg of the show, which, as I mentioned, we'll get to in due time, but for now, I think I've had enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.